So welcome back to part 2 of my eczema healing journey. And if you watched part 1, that's wonderful. If you haven't, I would suggest that you do, because it shows you exactly how my navigation of my professional life, how my emotional state while navigating the journeys of professional purpose really impacted how my eczema either reversed or flared up. So it's really important to know that when we're in the state of flow, when we're in the state of purpose, when we're in the state of give and take, we are nourished. And if we do have a dysregulated nervous system, we come back from a state of initial wounding, maybe in childhood or at a specific point where we didn't necessarily receive what we deserved or what we needed. So our needs were not met. So in adulthood, if we're constantly searching for our needs to be met, and we're then met with resistance and side effects that are not to our liking, that are more give than take, I guess that initial wounding is again ignited. It has never healed properly, because through the search of trying to heal it, we came to resistance, and we came to not healing it, but making it worse, making that wound fester. So what happens with eczema, or with eczema sufferers, that when they see they have this chronic eczema for a long time, and they question why that is. Some people, even as kids, you have to go back to that state. What happened then? What happened in childhood? Was there a lot of stress? Was there trauma? For babies, a lot of babies inherit their mother's lymphatic system, their mother's emotional state, a lot of their mom's internal processes. All of that is inherited right there through the placenta for 9 months, and then of course the genetics. So even with the babies, they need a lot of relaxation, they need a lot of peace, they need a lot of secure attachment in their environment. And all of that is very helpful when it comes to all levels of healing, from adult to baby to in between. So let's continue with the story. I left you off in India. So after India, I really, in some ways, I really wanted to leave the program earlier. I really felt disrespected, but I also, as a people pleaser, I couldn't necessarily talk to the founders one-on-one. I also understood that they had very fragile egos, and so I couldn't necessarily confront them. And given that my nervous system is very sensitive, it just felt like, walking on edge and trying to voice my needs, trying to voice my desires and pain points around the work and how I've been treated, but not feeling that I would be heard, or that my words would actually be even considered, and that it wouldn't lead to retaliation. So it became extremely stressful internally for me. There were other amazing aspects of being in India: the festivals, the liveliness, the feeling of community. People are really social and they care, and they're very friendly. So feeling that nurturance was really, really wonderful. But then again, India is also really highly active in terms of people's just energy, and in terms of how much stimulation there is at every turn. You have your mental, emotional, sensory overload, just stimulation 24/7, especially in big cities. So that also, I think, worked detrimentally on my nervous system. I didn't notice it as much, but I think as that complemented with the stress of the work, it really impacted how my eczema was healing. So at that point, I still didn't have chronic eczema. I had eczema on my hands and some patches on my body. But I understood that they came back because of the stress. And that was my biggest kind of insight and breakthrough about eczema. So I never really spoke up. And I think when you hold things in, when you don't voice your needs, your opinions, your anger, your resentment. When you don't put it out there, you hold it in, it impacts our lymphatic system, it impacts our nervous system, it creates emotional blockages in the body, which then create obstructions to all the movements of the lymph, the blood, the nerves, the nervous system, and that in turn creates disease. And that could be eczema, but for a lot of people that could be something different. So after India, I went back to New York. And imagine you're done with a fellowship and you have no job waiting for you, and you have to go back to one of the most expensive cities in the world and start from scratch. Now imagine I've been starting from scratch almost every year since graduating. At first because I wanted to have some variety, then I went to grad school, and by the time I finished grad school, the market was really not in the best shape. So I had to do what I had to do to make ends meet. I took on different jobs. I took on temporary jobs. I got more skills. I, took on jobs that paid little just to be able to, build up my resume and to have opportunities in the future. Imagine if you don't meet your financial, your security, your foundational needs in the Maslow pyramid of hierarchy of needs. Our financial security, having shelter, that is the primary, the most important need of a human being, to be able to take care of him or herself in that state. So if you're constantly stressed about your primary needs, and there's always that sense of like, okay, I'm doing this job, great, I got it. 6 months later, you're laid off. Or 6 months later, it ends, the contract ends. What next? And you're in this constant survival, trying to catch up to some place where you can feel peace and you can feel calm and you can feel you're actually in the right direction. You're going in the right direction. You're in the flow and you're going upstream. You're going downstream as opposed to upstream, right? So having just those experiences of, looking for new, trying to survive in this city that is highly competitive, at that point, very few opportunities, and doing your best is extremely taxing, especially on a sensitive person. So when I came back to New York, I worked for, again, nonprofits, and I still could not do what I really wanted to do, which was manage projects, international projects, or community-based projects. Maybe the reason that I did pick, the humanitarian nonprofit route was to heal a lot of these emotional and childhood wounds. And, that has to be all taken into consideration. And I think through not being able to do that, as well as I wanted to do it, it festered. So this time being back in New York was hard because I left New York, I went on the field. I really loved that experience being on the field, but I felt it wasn't necessarily compatible fully with being so sensitive. And I wanted to do something more hybrid where maybe I would go to the field once in a while, but also have that security of living in a maybe Western city and being financially secure. Again, the nervous system needed that, and I felt that I could do both because both would provide emotionally and physically for my needs. Long story short, again, I was doing all types of different jobs in the nonprofit sector, contract work, to then be able to have time and money to stay in New York and apply for my dream jobs. But I realized the more that I worked for institutions and the more that I worked in these jobs, how bureaucratic and non-impressive they were to what I thought they were. So my expectations for these jobs were definitely higher than what people could accomplish in those roles. In some ways, they reminded me of corporate jobs, even though they were nonprofit. They were different departments, extremely isolated from one another, working in a very corporate way, and calling themselves well-oiled machines, and you felt pretty much like you were working in a corporate environment. The different types of people basically that do charitable work, that are drawn to work to help other people, do have wounds that are maybe different, but come from the same place. Childhood wounds, or wounds of not having certain emotions and certain needs met. But the way that they deal with those wounds and how they go about healing and looking for the healing of those wounds is really different. It's kind of the same as the narcissist and the empath. Both are wounded very similarly, but the way they go about getting what they think is healing to them is very different. The narcissist goes into manipulation, goes into self-serving behavior, whereas the empath goes into service. They are givers, whereas the narcissist is a taker. So a very similar core wound, but different ways of going about healing that. And I think for a lot of eczema sufferers, we are empaths, we are sensitive, we are healers. But we need to pour into ourselves and give to ourselves the primary needs that we've never really gotten. That childhood wound, or that inner child that hasn't been completely given what it needs to thrive in the world. And that means emotional, mental, physical security, that unconditional love. So for me, the search was always for that physical security. And I didn't have a lot of that when I was growing up. I was moving from one place to another, very different countries as well, lived in different countries, different places. And as a very sensitive person, you have to adapt. And that takes toll on the nervous system. And your environment becomes different, the way you relate to those environments, your household, you know, all of that, all of those factors really imprint on the body, on the nervous system, how we then show up and what we seek as adults. If we had core wounding in that physical sense, in that physical safety chakra, the first chakra symbolizes the physical safety, the inner security, the outer security, that primary need, the money, the food, the shelter. If there's core wounding in that, then we're going to spend our adult lives looking for that. And because maybe we are looking for it in the outside world and we haven't found it internally, we're going to have trouble in that sense. We're going to not be able to get there because we're looking for the fix outside of ourselves. So for eczema sufferers, I think what we have to do is find internal security first. Who are we? Where do we want to go? What do we want to do in our lives, with our lives? What's our energy like? What are our boundaries like? When we're really in tune with ourselves, when we get to know ourselves and we become strong in who we are, we have that internal security, then we can really heal that external wound, external security. Then that internal security will reflect in the outside world. It's going to be easier to find work. It's going to be easier to make really good money. It's going to be easier to be surrounded by abundance. Once you're healing those childhood wounds, that inner child, giving that inner child what it never got. At first, it has to come from within. So self-love, self-care, let's travel, let's give to ourselves, let's pour into ourselves. Let's be the receptive one, not the one who gives. Let's see how that feels. Once we do that, then we begin to heal internally, and that expresses itself externally. And then we don't have as many of those blocks that remind us of that initial core wounding. So after New York, I did that for some time. I did that for, I think, a year and a half. I stayed in New York. I worked again as a fundraiser for a nonprofit. And then I just had it. I had to say, you know what? I've done this. This hasn't worked. I've lived in New York off and on for 6 years. I feel like I need wider open spaces. I need more adventure and I need more freedom. I'm going to try to work from my laptop and go to South America. So this was basically a plan because I found volunteer work in Peru, and I just missed being on the field. I didn't feel what I was doing again in New York had any tangible positive impact on my evolution as a human being. And I think a lot of us feel that way with work, but some people feel that way more than others. Some people can detach. I am a person who cannot detach. I need to be completely emotionally, passionately hugged by my work. I need to feel that every day, that when I wake up, I'm waking up to be of service, of purpose. And so I felt, okay, I have some skills. I have a network of people. I am going to try and freelance. And at that point, I had eczema. More so all over my body, but not yet as chronic as it's going to get in Peru. And so I made that decision. I'm going to get more field experience. I'm going to go volunteer. This was again for a youth organization. And I stayed for a little bit. So I did make that change. And I think at that point I understood that I was probably going to leave New York for good, that I just needed to do something different, be somewhere else. And it was great. I think I was volunteering for about a month, and still, the volunteering conditions weren't the best. I felt after a month I did what I could do, and then I just decided I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna do freelance work. And so I helped a lot of people that I knew with editing, with all kinds of marketing projects. I was trying to apply for jobs. This was way before remote work was even a thing. And when people ask me in Peru, so what are you doing on your laptop? And, are you vacationing? Are you working? And when I told them, yes, I'm working from my laptop, they thought it was the most magnificent life that they could imagine. And this was way before digital nomads, remote workers, anything. I always wanted to do that. I always wanted to travel and work and, help people and have multiple streams of income, doing good in the world, just being very passionate on my feet and of service. So another reason that I really wanted to travel was because I understood that if I feel more free, and if I feel that I am distracted from this numbness inside that the work afforded in New York, that I wasn't really doing anything that felt what I wanted to really do inside. It was this kind of war between internal desires and external reality, and when you're at that, there's huge tension in the body. And because of that, I knew that travel would distract me from this lack of progress, this lack of flow. And if I see beauty in architecture, if I see beauty in human beings, if I see beauty in Machu Picchu, one of the most beautiful, most crafty, most magical experiences and views that you can imagine, if I could be part of that, something more magical, something more transformational, that my healing would be progressed, that I would see results, and that somehow I could make this remote work while I'm healing, while I'm also exploring and being impacted by that inspiration that I feel. So in order to feel inspired, I need to be in a place that inspires. And in order to be able to do this work, I have to fill my cup and give it my all. So I decided I'm just gonna, make it work. I'm gonna go for 3 or 6 months, just travel and try to make this remote work thing happen. And at that time, those 3 months became 6 months as I also ventured to Ecuador. And within those 6 months is when my eczema really progressed, and it was really chronic all over. You could squeeze my thigh, and a lot of that pus, the eczema pus, would come out. And at that point, I was first near a beach. It was wonderful, but then I decided to move to the mountains. And if you know anything about Peru, the mountains are extremely cold and they're very high in elevation. So I decided, okay, and I had no idea how eczema really worked, what made it flare up. And so I went to the mountains and my eczema got really bad, and it was hard to adjust to elevation. So I had a hard time getting adjusted to breathing properly, to walking. So given how bad it was, I looked for those solutions. I really wanted to go natural. I really understood that there is only a natural way. I've always been very close to nature, to natural medicine, to natural way of eating and connecting with life. I've always been an animal lover and all of that. So it made sense to me that if the body is dysregulated, the way to regulate it is to just balance it out with nature. And so I looked for solutions. I got connected with a shaman lady. So this shaman lady lived near the Amazon this was in Ecuador. I met up with my sister. So my sister, from a connection, knew about this man who was American, and his wife was a Ecuadorian shaman. And so we stayed at this was a retreat, maybe for a week or two. We explored, the medicinal way of life, and I got to be connected with her. So she decided to help me by basically bathing my body in herbs. So she would pick specific herbs, detoxifying herbs, early in the morning at dawn, and then boil them. And she made sure that not even an hour passed after she picked the herbs and the boiling part, because if it did, the herbs didn't have the vitality, the medicinal properties. So she applied the treatment, and I was basically almost all naked, had the treatment on me, and I was sitting there and just experiencing those herbs, doing their thing. And she gave me also this really thick and really potent medicine. And she said, this cleans the blood, this cleans the system, has some of the most powerful Amazon herbs inside it. And you just drink it on an empty stomach first thing in the morning, and that's going to help to detoxify the body. And that made sense to me. I understood that, you have to clean the body for things to, of course, regulate. And it helped. All of this helped tremendously. And again, it only worked temporarily. So I understood that there were these elements to healing. And whenever I did something that was really healing, I could see results. But the results were temporary. So how do I get these results to stay? And after I traveled, I realized, okay, the components of everything that helped me were the fruit shakes that I had. So the fruit juices. In Latin America, you have so many fruterias, and you have a lot of places that have their own, these ladies that sell their own squeezed juices. And these juices are basically just cold pressed, squeezed juices from a lot of different exotic tropical fruits. So I always had them every day. Once I read a bit more about body detoxification, once I was aware of certain aspects of the body needing to basically purge what no longer it needed, and for the body to have those nutrients and that energy to self-heal, I began to have 2 to 3 juices a day and invest in doing as much raw as I could, So not completely. I couldn't do all raw. I did as many salads and fruits as I could. But traveling in Latin America, you have these veggie restaurants and you want to try their, stews and soups and so forth. And I did eat bread at certain hostels early in the morning because I just didn't have a kitchen, and it was really hard to constantly have fruit, having to eat it, not have a refrigerator, and so forth. So I did my best. But I did understand that it helped. And I did understand that, seawater helped when I would frequent a beach. It always helped me. The sea salts, the sun, all of that, the air was extremely detoxifying and nourishing to the body. The minerals, I think the mineral content of that you can find in the sea, that you're also breathing in through the air, the earthing of being on the sand and getting the vitamin D and those hormones from the sun, all of those elements. And of course, just the vibe, the birds and people being in their most relaxed state, that is so healing. So if you have an opportunity to go to a beach and stay at the beach for a long time, especially as you heal your eczema, I do recommend it. I also understood that when I ate very simply and when I didn't eat anything that is acidic, so candy, when I didn't drink wine, and I had some wine celebrating the new year with a few people that I met at that point, and the next day I couldn't open my hands. They were all bloody and cut up. Well, I wouldn't go that far, but they were really, really red. I couldn't at all open them without hurting myself more. So I was locked in, and I understood that anything acidic, especially if you're going through a flare-up, is going to make things worse. So wine, cheese, bread, crackers, all of the stuff that I had that day that I usually don't have just made it so much worse. I understood that if you give yourself that present time and you do what you love in that time, okay, I don't have to worry about money, security, where I'm gonna stay. I just have this moment, and I can read a book, I can draw, I can paint, whatever my soul is craving, I can tend to, because I'm not distracted by worry of survival. So when I understood that, I knew that I couldn't go back to New York. I couldn't do anything that's going to put me in a place of survival. That I needed peace, I needed unconditional support, I needed family, and I needed to be in the flow and nourish myself, nourish my soul. That's when I decided I'm going to go back to Michigan, where my parents live, and I'm going to stay there until I heal. And because I had a specific desire and a goal, and I understood these components of eczema, I am going to show up every day and nourish my body holistically. I'm going to do the fruit, I'm going to do the raw foods, I am going to lay out in the sun in the backyard, and I'm going to breathe deeply and just look at all the beautiful trees. And he had a lot of trees. He actually had raspberries and different kinds of fruits and vegetables growing. It was a vegetable garden. My dad created one, and I would go and interact with this garden. I would basically garden, get my hands inside that soil, really connect with earth and eat from the land. I would spend time outside and get back to some creative projects that I could never get back to because I was busy surviving. At that point, I went back to my passion for calligraphy and poetry, and every day I would create these works of art that brought so much love and healing to my body. And I would just be in a meditative state, because you have to concentrate when you do calligraphy. You have to concentrate on that moment. You cannot be distracted. So being so present, I was in this meditative state, very present, and I was connected with every single stroke, every single point of my art. And that connection with nature, with art, with creativity, self-expression, without worry, without past, without future, and feeding my body with the best fuel, organic, raw foods, and experiencing just relaxation, not having to be anywhere, not having to be anyone, not having to do anything, just replenish and heal. That is when I saw true healing. After 3 months of doing just that, my body recalibrated. It had the time, it had all the resources to recalibrate, and that is when 95% of my eczema reversed. It cleared for good. The 5% that didn't clear was the cyclical aspect of eczema that I experienced for the next few years. So it would come back during cold weather, during times of periods of stress, but this cyclical eczema was nothing like my chronic eczema. It was basically just a little patch on my hands, and that patch would stay maybe for a week or two and then would go away. So it was a very small reminder of, okay, you're probably, more stressed, or you're not eating as clean as you should. And you don't have to eat completely clean after you heal your eczema. Preferably you want to still do a lot of raw foods, but once your body is more regulated, you have more strength. Your body is now purging the waste well to be able to incorporate more of the foods that you like, but be very diligent about that. Yes, you can cheat here and there, you can have some meat, you can have some grains, you can eat out, but make sure you moderate that and make sure you have the fruits in the morning and that your lymphatic system is constantly healthy, flowing, your kidneys are filtering, you're moving, and that you're in the flow of life. So once you understand the ingredients to healing, once you heal, you take those ingredients and you adjust them to your everyday life so that you see that consistency in basically that healed state. So to be honest, even to this day, sometimes I do get a little bit of a patch of eczema on my hands. And this is usually during a long period of stress. So if I have to tend to someone who's ill, or if I have to handle something that could, take a month or two, and I'm constantly exhausting my reserves, I would see a little patch of eczema form. But then I know exactly why. And if that happens, I make sure my diet is more clean, I get more rest, I work on my nervous system, so I meditate more, I do more yoga to make sure the lymph is flowing well, I take more walks, so I just attend to more self-care. So even as a detox specialist, I've been working on my health for so long, but you have to think about genetics, you have to think about early life, you have to think about a lifetime of stress or not eating the proper foods, not regulating yourself, your nervous system properly. That can't be fixed overnight, and healing is cyclical, healing is progressional, and there are always deeper layers of what could be healed. So even though I feel I made huge strides, especially in eczema, but also in other aspects of my health, there's always something to tackle deeper into. And that can be done through fasting, that can be done through fruit cleansing, through yoga, because yoga moves the lymphatic system really well, through inner work, emotional work. So there are many layers of healing. And once you get through the healing of eczema, you will be so much more transformed to see how far you've come, how stronger you are, how more aligned you are to your purpose, because you've gone through this huge hero's journey, and now you're at a point of such clarity about who you are as a person and how strong you are and how you can use that strength to make your life exactly the way you want it to be. But also on that journey of going towards that life, you will encounter more triggers, more things that you could work on physically, emotionally, and mentally. Basically, healing is a lifetime process. We all have to heal certain aspects of ourselves that we may not think that need healing, or that have not been triggered in the past, but are now coming out because now the body feels free to message us about them because we're cleaner, we're more healed. So the body is nudging us, hey, there's still this little thing that I have. I couldn't let you know about it before because you were busy. But now you have the resources. Now I have the resources and the time to tackle this. So let's do it together. And then you have that trigger or that something that reminds you of, yeah, there's more work to be done. And so that is a lifetime process. And if you're on this journey of eczema, know that you're on a journey of transformation, of healing, not only eczema, but healing your full self, your full holistic body, mind, soul. Be gentle with yourself. Go on the ride. It's a beautiful ride of growing, of evolving, of being true to who you are. Is it easy? No. But it can be enjoyable. It can be beautiful. It can be bittersweet because we may have to leave a lot of things behind us that no longer serve us. By giving up that which no longer serves us, we open up. We open up our space, our capacity to bring in the new that's going to nourish us. So don't be afraid of this journey. Say yes to it and go all in. If I think about my eczema journey, I can say it was hard. I can say that it was, it took me to a place of really connecting with myself. But the most important thing about the journey is where I am here today. Because of that journey, it led me to get into the world of detoxification, the world of healing. And so I became a healer. And because of eczema, I can say that I found my true calling. So I want the same for you. I want this to be a journey of becoming who you're meant to be. And if eczema never happened, I don't know where I would be, because I don't know if I would be a detoxification specialist here now on YouTube helping you with your eczema. So maybe eczema is a gift after all. It's just packaged in, a gift paper that is extremely unappealing. So it's for us to figure out how, we will live post-eczema and what eczema taught us about ourselves. And when I did that, I embraced my path as a healer. And here I am today. Because when you've been on that journey, you can guide others to do the same. So I hope you found this video helpful, that my eczema journey inspired you in some way, that it brought value to you. Please let me know about your journey. I really want to know how your journey has been, what you're looking forward to, and how I can help you. Please leave a comment down below. I read all the comments and I will definitely respond. Stay tuned for more content, for more helpful tips and inspiration on how to heal your eczema naturally, as quickly as possible, and for good. And I will see you very soon.